There's a place in Connecticut where sunlight feels reluctant to enter. A place so steeped in tragedy, rumour and whispered curses that it has been called the Village of the Damned. Deep in the shadows of the northwestern hills lies Dudleytown, once a small, isolated settlement. Today it's nothing but ruins hidden in what's known as Dark Entry Forest. But to those who claim to have visited, it is far from empty. Tonight, we'll step into the legend, the history, and the hauntings of Dudleytown. But remember, this is private land. Trespassing is illegal. Our journey will be in words and in imagination. The land that would become Dudleytown was first settled in the mid-1700s. The first known settler, Thomas Griffiths, was soon joined by several members of the Dudley family: Gideon, Basile, Abel, and Martin Dudley. They built homes, stone walls, and tried to coax crops from the rocky soil. But from the very beginning, this was a place of struggle. The settlement sat in a valley surrounded by thick forest. The soil was poor, water was scarce, and the shadows of the surrounding hills cut short the daylight hours. Locals called the road into the valley Dark Entry for the way the trees swallowed the sun. Over time, a darker explanation took root. The Dudleys, legend claimed, carried a curse across the Atlantic. Their ancestors in England were tied to treason, executions, and political downfall. Supposedly, every branch of the Dudley bloodline was doomed to meet tragedy. Whether fact or fiction, the name Dudleytown became synonymous with bad luck and bad tidings. Abel Dudley was the first to apparently suffer from the curse in the New World. Tax records show that he somehow lost his entire fortune, but sadly, he also lost his mind and ended his days as an insane pauper begging in the streets for money. The next strange occurrence involved a good friend of Abel's, Gershon Hollister. There are two versions of this story. The first being that Hollister was murdered in the home of William Tanner, his next-door neighbour. The second version says that Gershon Hollister actually fell to his death while repairing a barn for William. Whichever version may be true, it is said that villagers whispered that Tanner had killed Hollister. As a result, Tanner went insane, seemingly due to unfounded rumours and his destroyed reputation. In 1759, the Nathaniel Carter family moved into the house once owned by the demented Abel Dudley. Almost immediately, Nathaniel received word that mysterious sickness had wiped out his relatives in New York. So, Nathaniel moved his family to Binghamton because he needed to be back in New York. However, it's claimed that the Dudley curse followed them, and 2 years later, Nathaniel, his wife, and infant child was slaughtered by Indians. Not too much is known about the other children, but reportedly they were sold to Indians in Canada. Only Daniel, who remained with his captors, later returned to the United States. Evidently, he escaped the curse and eventually went on to become a Supreme Court judge. Eventually, the Swifts would move into the area. Colonel Herman Swift was a veteran of the American Revolution, a man respected for his discipline and leadership. But one summer afternoon, as he and his wife sat at home, a bolt of lightning struck without warning. Sarah was killed instantly. Neighbours found Herman days later, sitting in the same chair, eyes fixed on the floor. He never recovered from the shock, and in the years that followed, his behaviour became increasingly erratic. Some said he saw Sarah's ghost in the forest. Others believed something else had stepped into her place. Then, in 1918, Dr. William Clark, a New York physician, bought a summer home in Dudleytown for himself and his wife Harriet. They were newlyweds, Looking for a quiet escape from the city, Clark left for a medical conference one weekend, leaving Harriet alone. When he returned, she was gone. Searchers found her wandering deep in the forest, her clothes torn, her eyes wide with terror. She told her husband that creatures had come for her, that they whispered from the shadows. Days later, Harriet took her own life. Clark never spoke of what happened again, but he sold the house and left the valley for good. The Brophies were among the last to live in Dudleytown. They had 2 small children who often played near the forest edge. One summer afternoon, the children vanished. Their father searched frantically, calling their names until night fell. He never came home. Days later, the Brophy house burned to the ground. No remains were found, and just like that, the last chapter of Dudleytown's living community closed. Those who have entered since its abandonment tell of an unnatural quiet. No birdsong, no rustle of leaves, only the sound of their own breath. Some say they feel watch from between the trees. Others hear footsteps pacing them, though they walk alone. Dark shapes dart just out of sight. A sudden wind can rise from nowhere, curling around you like unseen hands. Some visitors claim to hear distant screams. Others swear they've been touched by something cold and unseen. Cameras malfunction. Compasses spin wildly. For paranormal investigators, Dudleytown is a place where the veil between the worlds is thin, where tragedy has left an open wound. Historians argue there's no proof of a curse. Dudleytown's fate, they say, was the same as many other rural settlements. Poor farming land, isolation, and changing economies drove families away. The tragedies, while real, were spread over decades. Yet, even the skeptics admit there's something unsettling about the place. The dense forest, the shadowed valley, the ruins half swallowed by the earth. It's easy for the mind to imagine things lurking just out of sight. Today, Dudleytown lies within private property, guarded by the Dark Entry Forest Association. Trespassing is strictly forbidden. The ruins are hidden under thick moss and ivy, and the forest slowly erases what's left. But legends are harder to erase. Whether cursed or simply misunderstood, Dudleytown remains one of America's most enduring ghost stories. And perhaps that's the real haunting here, how a handful of tragedies can echo for centuries. So, if you were given the chance to walk through the heart of Dark Entry Forest, would you? Would you risk finding out whether the curse is real, or whether it's all just in the human mind?